What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. What's going on in pop culture right now? Dave here with another podcast. A lot of heavy hitters to get into. Quickly, gonna hit some new music from Nas and Greta Van Fleet and NewJeans. But of course, the main focus for everyone this week is Barbenheimer. Barbie from Greta Gerwig, Oppenheimer from Christopher Nolan, taking the world by storm. So much to discuss. Gonna get into the Barbenheimer phenomenon itself as well as both movies. So make sure you hit the link below and subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod. Get the pod any way you can, just make sure you get it. And see the link below for the best of 2023 Spotify playlist for my favorite songs of the year, updated weekly. Let me know it's good, and let's get into it. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of NewJeans' second EP, second mini album, Get Up. Yes, the hottest thing in K-pop, without question. NewJeans, they are back. This is their second EP, first release since OMG, the single album back in January, and of course their debut EP almost exactly 1 year ago. And in this year, NewJeans have unquestionably become the hottest act in K-pop, the most, I think, significant, new act, fourth generation K-pop group, without question. I think that's not really up for debate at this point for a few reasons. One, their immense popularity, which we can get into, but also I think probably more interestingly is how unique NewJeans has been from the very beginning with the creativity, the sound they have, the concept they have as a group, specifically not going for that girl crush concept that's been super popular with girl groups lately, instead going for more of that, I think, modest sounding girl next door Y2K aesthetic type vibe. There's real R&B influence here, specifically 90s R&B influence. You can hear some Jersey club at times, some 80s pop. I think, modesty, but also, I think, niceness to the vibe without being simple, and in fact, actually being very creative, has just immediately stood out over the past few years in terms of their peers, in terms of the K-pop industry. And on top of that, they've made a lot of great tracks that have been huge bangers, very catchy songs, have found that TikTok success, leading to this immense popularity. I mean, with this new EP, Get Up, this group only has 13 songs out in the last year. And despite all that, you're looking at over 20 million monthly listeners on Spotify. That's on par with Blackpink right now. Incredible. They're about to do a Lollapalooza set next month, only 13 months into their entire career. All 5 members are brand ambassadors for major luxury fashion brands at this point, and they're the fastest K-pop group to have 3 Billboard Hot 100 hits, and I'd imagine they're going to get a 4th one soon, when I'll get into that on this new EP. The popularity is just speaking for itself, and I think, when you release songs like Hype Boy and you release songs like OMG, it makes a lot of sense that they're going to also resonate on TikTok, but more importantly, they're also great songs. So, needless to say, I've been very excited about NewJeans, and I find them very compelling. And thus, this Get Up EP, the second EP, the second, big release, third real release from the group, needed a lot of eyeballs. This is, one of the biggest K-pop releases of the year, just by default. And, going into this, I started to have a little bit of reservation just because, the first 2 singles we got, or really the first single we got, Super Shy, they've been performing it. It's got the music video. This one, rocketed up the Billboard Hot 100 chart, debuting at 66, their high mark thus far. Despite all that, I'm not the biggest fan of this song. I don't really think it holds up to the immense highs of songs like Hype Boy and OMG and even other hits they have like Attention and Cookie. I just don't find it on that level. For me, it's just kind of an okay song. The fast drum tempo is nice. Danielle being one of the co-writers, you love to see that. And in general, Danielle and Heron doing a bunch of co-writing on this EP. They're teenagers, a year into their careers. This is really unheard of with K-pop. You love to see it. But Super Shy, to me, I just find it a bit repetitive with the lyrics, and as a result, just kind of underwritten. And, the verses are basically the same each time. And also the choreography, something that's usually one of their strengths and what comes to their other songs, not a huge fan of it. It's kind of growing on me. Like, it's still a catchy song, but I don't necessarily love it. Uh, the other single is track one on Get Up, and that would be NewJeans, with a space this time. And that one I think is okay. It has the hair and co-write on it. They have a dance for it. They've been performing this as well. I think that song's just okay. It doesn't really stand out to me too much. It's fine. But and Super Shy is track two. Track three though, this is where the fun begins. ETA, a song that's been teased by them. They performed it at like the Bunnies Camp, performance concert they did over in Korea recently. So people knew about this track, at least in some form. You get ETA, got the music video out today, shot on an iPhone. Really fun video, a lot going on in it. Has this really noticeable hand clap tempo right away. Love the production. And I think this is just incredibly fun. The pre-chorus on this, you have Heen, Minji, Daniel, and Hani all doing these like quick short lines in succession. Very catchy, sounds great. Immediately going into the beginning of the chorus, where I think Heron has clearly the best part of the whole song. We can go wherever you like the beat, like she just rides that part going into the chorus. Then you get to the "What's your ETA" refrain, which is, you could say, is a bit repetitive, but I don't feel like it's underwritten like Super Shy, because I think the verses on ETA, that pre-chorus, those are all really strong moments. So then going into something simple, which is basically just a dance break moment for the song with ETA, I think that's a banger. I think that's clearly the biggest banger on Get Up. Do I hold it to the same level as some of their other ones, like OMG and Hype Boy? I don't know. Obviously I just heard the song, but eventually they can't keep outdoing themselves every single time. So even if you release another really good song and it's not quite as amazing as your first amazing songs, that's okay. We don't have to be too hard on it. But yeah, I think ETA really stands out to me. Then we have Cool With You, which got a music video just a few days before the Get Up release. Danielle on the co-write again. And this one stands out just because, again, like, them kind of being a bit unconventional with the production. This time it's like a UK garage beat. Like, it's really moving. It's fun. A bit of a repetitive hook again, but the drum tempo, I think, just really keeps you moving. And honestly, the pre-chorus on Cool With You, the "You May Be On My Mind" part that Danielle and Hani harmonize, I think the vocals on that sound incredible. Like, that's probably the best vocal moment on the whole release. I think they absolutely shine on that. And then on top of this, with Cool With You, the music video, featuring some major star power. You have Hoyeon, who people would know from Squid Game and, just being a model in Korea and whatnot. And I was like, oh wow, that's a big get. She's not like, doing a ton of stuff. She's very selective, but she's been around K-pop before. That's not completely out of nowhere. But then you also have a very small cameo performance from none other than Tony Leung, of course, the great Chinese actor, one of the most signature actors in Asia in the last 50 years. Tony Leung, who notably not Korean, like, that is a major get. To me, it just speaks to the kind of clout that Adore and Hype have with NewJeans. Like, this is a unstoppable train, so you better get on board. And they literally have Tony Leung showing up in their music video for a few brief moments with some dyed hair. It's like, wow, like, just a flex, honestly. Track 5 is Get Up, the title, but it's only a 36-second interlude. It's just kind of all the members simply singing with a kick drum. Honestly, kind of disappointing that that's not really a song, given that NewJeans only have a dozen tracks out right now. Like, I would have loved that to be a fully fledged song. The thing about Get Up is, like, it's not actually a song that they would probably play. It's more like they would put that on for outfit changes when they perform, or it's like the opening sound you hear at the start of the show. Like, it's not really much of a moment. So, a bit disappointing. And then you have ASAP, the last track, track 6, which has been teased a fair amount as well. Another Danielle co-write. This one, I had seen some hype about it, in the pre-release form. Didn't really know what to expect. A bit let down by this one, just because, I find this one incredibly simple. Like, it's kind of like a spoken word vibe, honestly. You have this, like, tick-tock, tick-tick-tick refrain as, like, part of the production, but really it's uses vocals. And for me, like, the verses are the same both times, so there's just not, like, a lot to the song. You know, I think like lyrically, you think about this release, it is pretty cool thematically because I think NewJeans, they have like actually like pretty mature vibe going on where they're not like locked into like one frame of reference. It's not like 100% always like empowerment stuff, you know? And I think that there's a lot of like multitudes to what they're getting to, and like I guess ASAP is like kind of like them like expressing like the last bit of emotion on this release. But you think about like what ETA is about, um, in terms of like dudes being shitty and like the music video of them like spying on some guy cheating and stuff, comparing that with the modesty of Super Shy, and I think the kind of up and down messaging on a song like Cool With You, like I think lyrically they're also quite advanced, you know, and of course they have a lot of help with the lyrics, but uh, nothing but impressed overall. And yeah, I think like I'm certainly happy with the release. I think the moments on Cool With You, the, you know, at getting another banger out there with ETA, that was enough for me. And then like I think there's moments on the other songs that I enjoy, even if I'm not the biggest Super Shy fan. But yeah, I mean, long story short, people know it. NewJeans is, I think, just a really significant, you know, music act right now, and I really cannot wait for the first full length album. Of course, we've only got a 4-track EP, a 2-track single album, and now a 6-track EP. That's really 5 songs, and of course the sponsored Coke Zero song. That's it. You know, they've only scratched the surface of what they can do, in my opinion. So the first full length album, which I would say is, you know, maybe probably next year, we would hope. Maybe they release another EP at the end of the year. Probably not. Um, when that comes, that'll be huge. You have to think. And in the meantime, of course, you know, NewJeans, they're putting the pressure on Ive and Seraphim and Nimix and Itzy, like, and of course, all the guys, you know, like and Hyphen and stuff. Like, I think the 4th gen K-pop acts are humming, but to me, NewJeans really stand out just for the creativity and the uniqueness that they continue to bring to their vibe, to their sound, to their personas. Um, I really enjoy kind of what they have going on with like social as well. I think they're all like really interesting personalities and fun, and they seem to be kind of wading through this okay, despite the fact that again they're all very young. They're all still teenagers. Minji's the oldest one, and she's 19. You know, they're still very young women. So there's a lot of runway ahead. But yeah, we have to hope that Ador and Hybe still have their best interests at heart because they're still so young. But so far, so good from what we can tell. But let me know, how did you feel about NewJeans' second EP, Get Up? What's your favorite song? Mine is ETA. What's yours? And for more K-pop reviews, more music reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Greta Van Fleet's third album, Starcatcher. Yes, the American rock band is back with another record, first one in about 2 years since the Battle at the Garden's Gate. And I have to say, this is an improvement on their second album, but not as creatively inspired and advanced as I would like from the band. I feel like a bit of a broken record, but Greta Van Fleet are rockers that go hard and have a clear love of hard rock, classic rock, progressive rock of the past, specifically the 70s, and we like them for that because they do that stuff well. However, it feels like they're hitting their ceiling with this current sound, this current identity, and you know what? If this is all they want to do, I think that's okay because they're really the only ones doing it. So they kind of stand out. They're about to embark on an arena tour. They're maintaining themselves as a successful band, even if I feel like they've kind of plateaued in the critical consciousness. Notably, the Grammy attention faded away. The first week's sales and the streams have been in decline, basically project to project with this group. They are not as popular as they once were, but they're still a successful band. However, I just feel like they have the potential to be the biggest band in rock if they want it. It just doesn't seem like they want it, you know? Obviously, the comparison point, people know it at this point. Josh Kiszka, he sounds like Robert Plant. These guys make songs that go hard the same way Led Zeppelin songs go hard. Can't quite put my finger on it, but every time Greta Van Fleet releases a new album, my Led Zeppelin listening spikes. Why would that be? It's just a fact. Like, they remind you of that band. And, I think Josh's voice has changed a little bit. He doesn't sound quite as similar as Plant, but the types of wailing he does, the types of guitar licks you hear on these songs, they're just so reminiscent. That's just what these guys do. And, like a song like The Falling Sky, like the wail on that, like, I'm sorry, like, what else does that remind you of? That it is what it is, I think Starcatcher, it's an improvement on Battle at the Garden's Gate because it's a shorter record, 10 songs, 42 minutes. It's also not nearly as indulgent. We don't have these like long 10-minute songs. It's a more get in, get out type record. I think the thing with Greta is they don't really do ballads. They kind of do the same kind of songs all the time. So in a sense, I do feel like there's a sameness to their music from time to time where it can blend together. People have shared this who have seen them live, that the set can blend together as well. And that's not even a demerit on how they play the music well. It's just the sound is very samey. And I think when you get songs that kind of grab you for being a little different, that's where Greta can really, engage you. I think the lead single, Meeting the Master, stands out for that off Starcatcher. That being said, though, like, it's stuff where, like, yeah, I feel like every song is good, but nothing about it excites me. I just, because it just feels like I've heard it before. Some changes in Josh's voice is really the only thing I can tell that's that different about this band. And you know what? If they want to, like I said, if they want to lock in and do this is what they want to do. This is who they are. This is what they have real passion about. I think that's admirable. I think that's cool. They're successful enough. They've earned the right to do what they want to do. That's cool. I just find it a bit creatively disappointing that that's all they're setting themselves out to do, because I feel like they've done this for 3 records and some EPs at this point, and they've done it well. What is there left to achieve continuing to do this? I mean, Highway Tune and Black Smoke Rising, those are still their most popular songs, and those are like the first hits they had. If you keep trying to make new Highway Tunes and new Black Smoke Rising, it's not going to work. So, as much as I'm disappointed in their creative decisions, I think it's okay. And I'm not hating. I'm just a bit frustrated that I would just like more. But to be clear, I do think when they make these songs, generally they go hard on the guitars. They're, and because no one else is really doing it this way, rock music is in a confusing place for sure, apart from the female driven wave in a certain segment of indie rock and, like the post-punk stuff we get over in the UK right now. There's not a lot of like scenes that are getting like national continued critical attention. So Greta, by being a completely unapologetic tribute throwback band who happens to make original music and is not a cover band, like, I guess that's okay. I guess I just had to get over it. But let me know, how did you feel about Greta Van Fleet's Starcatcher? Did you like it more or less than their past albums? I would say I like this more than Ballad at the Garden's Gate, but not as much as Anthem at the Peaceful Army or the For the Fires EP. From the Fires EP. But let me know, did you like this one more? And for more music reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Nas' 17th album, Magic 2, collab album with Hit Boy, their 5th album in a row, and all 5 of those have come since 2020. Of course, the 3 King's Disease albums, the first 2 being Grammy nominated, one of which got Nas' elusive first Grammy win, as well as the first Magic album from the end of 2021. Of course, King's Disease 3 was less than a year ago at the end of 2022. Nas and Hit Boy, they've been working, and you really can't blame them because all these albums are great. This is honestly just a really inspiring late career run. I think the overwhelming through line throughout these past 3 years of Nas and Hit Boy records is that Nas is demonstrating something that used to be very rare in hip hop, which was just old heads continuing to give you good work and stay very active. Uh, Partially due to the newness of hip hop as a genre, only being around for a few decades, to now you have artists approaching their 50s, in their 50s. Nas is what, 49? Yes, 49. And he sounds so fresh on these lush Hit Boy beats. He's turning back the clock and making great music. And we've seen this with other rappers approaching their older years, continuing to give you really good work. Look at Jay-Z, look at Black Thought, look at Killer Mike. But Nas, I think, is arguably the most prolific of them all. Pusha T, another example. Nas, I just really have a lot of time for all this music. And in a sense, if you think about Nas's career, he has reinvented himself before. Of course, people counted him out, and then he released Stillmatic. People counted him out, 10 years later, and he released Life is Good, really kind of kicking off his old head run. But then after the debacle with Kanye on Nasir in 2018, he got to work with, I think, a more involved producer in Hit Boy compared to how Kanye was moving at the time. And look what you get. So, this is not actually surprising for Nas. And now, obviously, 5 albums in a row, we're expecting it. But it's just kind of been a blast. If you think about specifically Magic 2 compared to the first Magic, I think the first Magic was much more throwback, much more boom bap, much more traditionalist. And Magic 2, the production from Hit Boy is different than that. And Nas obviously still sounds great the entire time. Just kind of going through Magic 2, the second song, Abracadabra, you just have this really fun, fast flow from Nas and this really great drum tempo. And just Nas's flow just matches the beat so well. I think that one's a total banger. Office Hours, you have a nice flow from Nas once again. I really love the snare patterns from Hit Boy there. You have a 50 Cent feature on that song. Let's just say it makes sense that 50 has announced his retirement. He hasn't aged nearly as gracefully on the mic as someone like Nas. Let's leave it at that. But doesn't detract from the song. It's kind of just additive. Black Magic, track 4. Love the keys on that. Really fast flow again. Just the pockets that Nas can find in these flows just sound so effortless despite his advanced years on the mic. You just love it. Bokeem Woodbine, shout out him, great actor. Love the song title. Love the horns on that song, really nice. Motion, the fast drum tempo once again, almost like an orchestral vibe going on here, very haunting. It doesn't sound like 90s hip hop. These beats sound much more modern, but still sound great. Then my only issue with Motion is I think the hook from Nas is a bit boring, a bit underwritten. Irvin Magic Johnson, that one's really hot, like that one. And then, Nas kind of switches up a little bit further. You have What This All Really Means, the keys, the horns, much more soulful vibe from Hit Boy on that. I like that one. He's kind of going into the next song, Slow It Down. Nas getting soulful again, but this time lyrically reflecting on his age and his perspective, obviously after many years in the game, many years as a public figure, etc. And then, if Pistols on Your album cover, I think also is pretty good. And I think, honestly, my least favorite song on this is a song that came out over a year ago as a loose single, which would be One Mic, One Gun featuring 21 Savage. That, of course, came to be after 21 had some kind of off-the-cuff comments about Nas and his relevancy, and they buried the hatchet and made a song together. Just kind of feels like a superfluous bonus song. Doesn't really fit the rest of the production, obviously. And I mean, when I heard the song, I never really cared for it too much. I don't think it adds a lot to the album here. But overall, it's still 11 songs and only 32 minutes. It's quite brief. But Nas himself, again, he just feels so fresh, giving his storytelling perspective on all kinds of things. And the Hit Boy beats are so involved, but also so, I think, made for Nas. He just sounds right at home with Hit Boy. I mean, 5 albums in, you know what to expect, I think. But again, the fact that you can they can find a spectrum of types of beats to do, and I think that's what was so fun about the first Magic, was that it was so clearly a homage to Nas's early career roots in the 90s. And to me, that one stands out just a little bit more for that. I think of a song like, what is it, 4016 Building? Like, that is like exactly my shit when it comes to boom bap. I love that one. Magic 2 doesn't quite grab me quite to that degree, but Nas himself still sounds so good. And honestly, it's been a bit of a quiet year for rap this year, in terms of just like big name releases, but also in terms of like releases making an impact broadly. I think it's just kind of been a weak crop. So I would put Magic 2 from Nas and Hit Boy towards the top of the list of hip hop albums this year. So we'll see how that holds when the year concludes. But shout out Nas, shout out Hit Boy. I think this is another great entry in this really fun run that they've been on. And honestly, odds are we'll get another album within the next year. Maybe it's Magic 3, or they pick a new title to make a new trilogy. Who knows? But I don't think they're going to slow down anytime soon. But let me know, how did you feel about Nas and Hit Boy's Magic 2? How would you compare it to some of the past Nas and Hit Boy albums? And for more rap reviews, more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here, talking about Barbenheimer. What else would I be talking about? Very exciting times. I'm going to review both movies in a separate segment. See the link below for my reviews of Barbie and Oppenheimer, 2 movies I really liked. But Barbenheimer itself, I think, needs a lot of inspection in its own regard, just because this is a really, I think, special and unique time, and it's very exciting. Barbenheimer fueling the United States box office to the 4th biggest box office of all time, over 300 million total. Of that, Barbie grossing 162 million domestic opening weekend, by far the biggest opening for film directed by a woman. Shout out Greta Gerwig, nailing it. And then Oppenheimer, the 3-day, 82.4 million. This is perhaps even more impressive because Oppenheimer is a 3-hour-long, R-rated, historical biopic thriller drama film made for adults. That is not a blockbuster. That type of movie has not been a blockbuster in ages. And yet, it is this year. I mean, Christopher Nolan, he is someone who has a brand, one of the few directors that has a brand, has a following. That being said, this is his biggest opening that does not feature Batman in his movie. It's an incredibly wild result. And, I think anecdotally, everyone can agree who partook in Barbenheimer this weekend that there was just an energy in the air. There was like really something going on. I think it was really special to see so many people really engaged and excited to go to the movies. People dressing up in pink by the thousands, at every theater. Just an amazing turn of events. And I think, obviously this started off on the internet a while back when like the Barbenheimer name was coined with these dueling shared release dates, and the online debate over which movie should you see first, what is the correct way to see these movies, because of course everyone wants to see these movies, a Nolan movie, a Gerwig movie, they sell themselves, but I feel like that just kind of snowballed, and just really strong viral marketing and word of mouth on the internet really fueled this. And, in a sense, maybe you could attribute this type of viral marketing, the ground zero for this maybe is like the Gentle Minions trend for Minions: The Rise of Gru about a year ago last summer. Of course, that was at a much smaller scale. Barbenheimer is mainstream and populist and for all kinds of, viewers. And I think it's just a really special thing. I know for me, like when I saw Barbie on Sunday, that was the biggest concession line I had ever seen. And it's backed up in the data. AMC said they had the 2nd biggest revenue day on Saturday at concessions in their theaters, behind Avengers Endgame Saturday back in 2019. Saturday was also AMC's 5th biggest admission revenue day in their 103-year history. Just crazy stuff here. And if you look at the performance of these movies, which also performed very well overseas in many markets, it's a really global thing here. The Saturday to Sunday holds really shows, I think, strong audience reception and real genuine turnout that we can expect through the week to come and through subsequent weekends where Barbie was only down 9% from Saturday to Sunday, and Oppenheimer was only down 12% from Saturday to Sunday. And then Oppenheimer grossed $30 million this week from IMAX. 20% of its box office was from IMAX. That's the biggest share ever to gross that much at IMAX. Nolan has those IMAX and premium screens locked down for the next 3 weeks for Oppenheimer. This is like a runaway train. And, this kind of cultural phenomenon is just really special. You cannot manufacture this. It's really genuine. But a big part of it is, I think, that viral marketing I spoke to, but also genuinely strong, professional marketing on the part of Warner Brothers with Barbie. They deserve a ton of credit for that. And it really kind of became a rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing. You had AMC sharing that, gosh, what was it? A few 100,000 people had booked same-day screenings of both Barbie and Oppenheimer during this weekend. I don't know if we have the data exactly yet, but obviously that is completely unheard of for that many people to see multiple movies in a weekend, let alone multiple movies on the same day. Again, any data point you look at just tells you how special and unique this moment is. And despite all this, which is so exciting and so awesome, and so justly earned because both these movies are great, again, check my reviews of both below. Despite all this, AMPTP, the studios, whatever I get the acronym wrong, the studios, amidst the writers and acting strike, will they look at this great momentum for movie going and say, you know what, we should probably try and end this strike to keep people coming? Nope, that's not what they did. Challengers, the new sports drama love triangle film with Zendaya, one of the biggest stars in the world, that trailer got seen by millions of people this weekend who saw Barbie. And then what happened with Challengers this very weekend? It got delayed from September 15th to April of next year, 2024, due to fears of the strike and the inability for talent to promote the movie. A movie like that definitely needs someone like Zendaya, the star, to promote the film. But it's just a massive L to delay the Q3 and Q4 movies this year and prolong the strike. It seems like that's what's going to happen, and this is going to go into the fall at the very least. And it's just a damn shame because look what happens when people want to see your movies. Obviously this is not going to happen every time people want to see your movies, but when people want to go, they go. This is the biggest weekend since Spider-Man No Way Home came out at the end of 2021, a movie that also was very viral and had a lot of people who really wanted to see it for various reasons. The theaters, the studios, it's been a tough time, obviously, coming out of the pandemic. And to have this amazing W for the theaters and for the studios, Universal and Warner Brothers, with Barbie and Oppenheimer, it feels like they're going to immediately throw this momentum away in the months to come. And that's a damn shame. And really stupid, if you ask me. But yeah, in the meantime, Barbenheimer is real. It's just so exciting that it's as big and kind of unprecedented as it is. And I'm just so happy that it's so earned too, because both these movies are great. So yeah, let me know, what was your experience with Barbenheimer? I think one of my favorite moments about it too is when I saw Barbie, my screening, which of course was completely packed. Of course, we saw the Nicole Kidman AMC ad, as you would when you go to an AMC. People cheered and applauded at the very end in like an enthusiastic way, because we know the Nicole Kidman ad has become a meme at this point. Heartbreak does in fact feel good at a place like this. People know. And yet, probably about halfway through my screening of Barbie, I heard a nearby theater, in a separate room, I heard them cheering for the same AMC ad for them, for their screening. And I just thought that was absolutely amazing and just kind of speaks to the energy that I felt in the theater this weekend when I saw both movies. But yeah, let me know, what was your Barbenheimer experience? How did you like both movies? Make sure you check out my reviews of both movies in the links below. And for more movie reviews and more discussions of unexpected film phenomenons at the box office like Barbenheimer, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Barbie, the new blockbuster smash film from Greta Gerwig, starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, and a slew of other familiar faces. Barbie, of course, is a bigger blockbuster than anyone could have possibly imagined. One half of Barbenheimer, the highest grossing opening weekend ever from a female director, major W for Gerwig. Check the link below. I talked all about the Barbenheimer phenomenon and what it means and this crazy and unique moment we are currently in between Barbie and Oppenheimer. So check the link below for that, as well as my review of Oppenheimer, which I also really liked. Barbie, I thought was fantastic. I love how meta and self-aware and just plain out funny it was. I think it's a real blast and a really enjoyable time, and it's so cool that it's been as successful as it is. And Gerwig is someone who I think people that know her movies have really been invested in at this point. You know, Lady Bird, one of the best films of the 2010s, followed up by Little Women, the signature adaptation of a story that had been adapted many, many times. And now she's leveled up, much like Christopher Nolan, her Barbenheimer peer. Gerwig has leveled up with an IP blockbuster and incredibly raised her profile. It's a really cool story. And obviously the theater experience for many with Barbie has been amazing this past weekend. It's a special time. But I think Barbie, just as a film, independent of all this mania, which has been so fun to be a part of, the film itself, I think, is really impressive. Just kind of right off the bat, you think about it, it's like, oh, Barbie, that's kind of a Craven IP film. We saw the New Yorker article come out. Mattel is going to raid their toy box and make movies about anything they possibly can. Barbie, arguably their most famous property. It makes sense they started here. That's all, I think a lot of people had a lot of cynical views on that. And for me, I was always, from the very beginning when this was announced, I was like, well, you know what? I trust Greta. I think she deserves the benefit of the doubt. And thankfully, I think the self-awareness this movie presents really from the start makes it so much fun to be with, and it's also a really enjoyable vehicle for Gerwig's sense of the world and her general point of view that she puts into all of her movies and all of her works. And I think the fact that it's able to be just kind of broadly fun and entertaining while also communicating some familiar Gerwig themes just, I think, makes it quite impressive, and it's kind of a blast. I think from the jump, the whole conception of Barbie Land as a place where all the Barbies hang out and hang out as toys. We watch Margot Robbie not actually drink anything, like she's an actual toy, right? They make jokes about the fact that they don't actually have any genitalia like the real life dolls, things of that nature. That's all quite fun, and watching them go through their day where it's always positive, there's no consequences, there's nothing negative happening. That's a really fun intro. Obviously, this movie is loaded with famous people, apart from Robbie and Gosling. Other Barbies played by Kate McKinnon and Issa Rae and Alexandra Shipp and Emma Mackey, Ritu Arya, Dua Lipa. It's a long list. And then on the other side with the Kens, after Ryan Gosling, we have Simu Liu and Kingsley Ben-Adir and Nkuti Gatwa and John Cena. Another character in Barbie Land, Alan, played by Michael Cera. It's a lot of people we know, right? And there's more to come. But I think it's a really fun thing to be in. And then, this movie very quickly becomes existential, for Barbie, stereotypical Barbie, Margot Robbie's specific Barbie, which is just really funny. And there's a great joke later on in the movie where Helen Mirren, the narrator of the film, notes that if you're trying to make a point about Barbie no longer feeling pretty, it's less effective when you have Margot Robbie playing the character, because obviously she is just conventionally gorgeous, as we all know. But Barbie getting existential, considering what happens when you die, things snowball, and Barbie ends up going to the real world, and Ken tags along, Ryan Gosling Ken, Beach Ken, as it were, and I think it's really funny how Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, who co-wrote the screenplay with her, it's really funny how they kind of, I think, hilariously yada yada the dimensions of this world, where it's oh yeah, Barbie's just, when this happens, they just travel through various vehicles across to the real world, and then when you go back, you just go back. You don't have to know how it works, and they really kind of lampoon that idea, and I think that's really funny. when they get to the real world, you know, I think this is where the movie starts to really shine, in terms of its perspective, where uh, you know, Barbie comes to our world, which the male-dominated world, and her perception of how women are viewed in society is not what she expected in the perfect, picturesque world of Barbie Land, right? Where women rule the world, and that's I think is really great. And I wasn't expecting the juxtaposition with Ken, where Ken, someone who by his existence as a Ken doll, has no actual purpose besides being near Barbie. Like he has nothing that can fulfill him, and he has nothing that he can do. And Ken coming to our real world and seeing how accepted he can be broadly right away just for the fact of being a large adult male. It's like that. I think juxtaposition is done really well, and then that leads you into the third act where Ken flips Barbie Land on its head and it becomes Kendom. And that I think is just a really smart read on how to like take this character in this movie and setting you up with this like really great act 3 where the Barbies have been like kind of brainwashed into being in like basic like servitude and like under male rule and whatnot. And there's this scheme to um, convince the or like trick the males into like being able to de-brainwash all the Barbies and stuff. And I think that third act is really enjoyable. That first act is also really enjoyable. If there's anything to like criticize about the film, it's probably the middle act where we encounter Mattel. Mattel is actually in the movie. Will Ferrell plays the CEO of the company of Connor Swindells as like a lowly office worker there. And I thought it was quite funny how we know Mattel is very involved in the making of this movie, and we know they want to make movies about more of their toys. We know this, but Mattel is like being like openly being laughed at in the movie and like lampooned and joked about and stuff. And like there's all these male executives and talking about this female brand and Barbie and things like that. And it's like I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that much of like a ribbing to happen to Mattel, but it's definitely in there. Also, in the real world, you have someone who works at Mattel, a mom, played by America Ferrera, who actually we learn is like the cause of like Barbie's changing psyche, and she gets to give towards the end of the movie in Act 3, I think this really great monologue about what it's like to be a woman in the world, in the real world, and that's I think just a great like expression of like Gerwig's ideas, which she always kind of puts into her movies, and her daughter is a big part of the movie as well, Ferrera's character's daughter, and that's I think also a great moment where in Act 2 Barbie goes to a school, encounters the daughter, and the daughter, Gen Z girl, completely dresses down Barbie and talks about all the shitty effects of Barbie on society to, putting forward a unrealistic standard of beauty and things of that nature. And I'm just really happy that, like all that kind of stuff was in the movie, and just like that over. I think that continued and unrelenting kind of self-awareness about what Barbie means and doesn't mean in our actual real world here. Um, it's just quite enjoyable. And again, despite all that like intelligence that's like in the movie, it's also I think just really funny. The Ryan Gosling performance is getting a lot of love. He's really committed to playing Ken, and he kind of goes through the existential crises as well, especially towards Act 3. Really enjoyable. I think the "I'm Just Ken" song moment in the movie is hilarious. Honestly, just a really funny song performed by Gosling. You have like the Ken face-off. Simu Liu has like a nice like foil presence as like the rival Ken to Gosling's Ken. But that the Ken like dance off dance battle moment's great. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think Gosling he's like just really fun to be with. But Robbie is also really great. We know how good an actor Gosling and Robbie are, but I don't think Barbie would have been able to work if Margot Robbie wasn't as good, because she has to play, I think, a lot of different tones and kind of juggle a lot as she carries the movie, and she's able to do that. Obviously, we know how great she is, and I think it'll probably end up being a bit of an underrated performance. I think everyone's going to talk about Ken because Ken's so fun and Gosling's so fun as Ken, but you really need this Robbie performance to land for this to really work, and thankfully it does. I think, and again, I think it's a difficult part that Robbie had, and she's able to really nail it. Yeah, I mean, most of the supporting cast, it's truly supporting cast. They don't have a whole lot to do, you know. Will Ferrell is pretty enjoyable just doing Will Ferrell things as the CEO. I don't think the Mattel people have a whole lot to really do in the movie. They have some funny lines and some expressions of the general themes, but they're perhaps a little underutilized. Secret MVP is probably Michael Cera as Alan. He has some really funny stuff going on, um, which I quite enjoy. Alan, Ken's best friend, introduced in 1964. I'm seeing here. Shout out Ken. Shout out Ken and Alan. Um, yeah, I mean, uh, I think it's like there's a lot to like really like pick apart and think about as well. But even if you don't want to do that, it's just fun and it's enjoyable. And like I think the self-awareness I think really endears the movie to its audience. And that's what I think really makes it stand out to me. So I thought Barbie was like a genuine blast, a genuinely clever and creative movie. And I don't know how you could have done a movie about Barbie and Ken toys any better than how you did this. And I think the fact that it's so existential really rises above any other way you could have taken this kind of story. So shout out Gerwig and Bombach. We know how great they are as writers, but I think they really killed it here. Gerwig, her next project is developing, sounds like 2 Narnia films for Netflix. Definitely wouldn't have been my first choice for what she could do next, but Barbie also wouldn't have been on that list either. So again, I think she earned the benefit of the doubt with this. This is the biggest movie Robbie and Gerwig and Gosling have been a part of, and this is basically the signature movie event of the year. I thought it would be a hit. I didn't think it would be like this. It's crazy. Again, check the link below for my discussion about Barbenheimer as a phenomenon. Crazy stuff here. Check out my link below for Oppenheimer as well, another movie I liked that of course is very different than this. And let me know what you thought about Barbie. What was your favorite part about it? What was the funniest thing to you? And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's latest film, one half of Barbenheimer. We are in the midst of a very impressive phenomenon at the box office between Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'll talk about the Barbenheimer phenomenon in the second segment. This would really just be focused on Oppenheimer as a film, which I loved, completely loved. I'm going to get into all the reasons why I did. But I'll just say that the Barbenheimer of it all. Oppenheimer opened to over $80 million domestically in the United States. This is a 3-hour R-rated historical biopic film made for adults. And it grossed more than any Christopher Nolan movie that doesn't have Batman in it opening weekend. That is just completely bonkers and just speaks to the very special time we are in terms of what Barbenheimer is. And I'll get into that more in a separate segment. Check the link below for that. So Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's latest film, first since Tenet, which of course released back in 2020, kind of reopening cinemas during the pandemic. Now we have Oppenheimer, the second Nolan film based around current events after, of course, Dunkirk. He returns to World War II era with the story of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the modern atomic bomb, and really making a film through the eyes and persona of Oppenheimer, a film about the Manhattan Project, the secret development of nuclear bombs and the technology behind all of that, in the lead up to the dropping of the bombs on Japan in 1945. And, I think this is a really impressive film for a number of reasons. One, I think it has great subject matter, right? The Manhattan Project is an absolutely captivating time in history. This kind of race against the clock to really achieve scientific breakthrough, right, in the development of nuclear fission and fusion and finding out how to make the bomb before the Nazis do, right? And also trying to keep their technological developments and secrets away from their own ally, the Soviet Union, due to the lead up to the Cold War, of course, and the fear of the Soviet Union in terms of them not actually remaining an ally, people know the history, I'd imagine, but it's just a really like great moment in history to make a movie about, right? So it's a compelling story. On top of that, what this movie is as a biopic, with Oppenheimer, you have Nolan doing what he does as a filmmaker, right? I think Nolan, on one hand, is probably our greatest presenter of science in big filmmaking. Of course, this is, think of Interstellar particularly, but like Nolan's interest in presenting science, whether it's real life or more fantastical, of course, in a movie like Inception or Tenet, whatever it is, Nolan is really good at communicating um, ideas like that. The quantum physics and the taking Albert Einstein's theory of relativity and moving all that forward, the average person, myself included, does not really understand the minutia of a lot of what the scientists in Oppenheimer are discussing. But Nolan is such a strong filmmaker that he can communicate really heady and dense stuff quite well. So you have that. Also, I think Nolan, because Nolan is such a visual filmmaker, right? Of course, this movie looks amazing. When we go to Los Alamos, where the Manhattan Project is secretly conducting all of its testing and development, this town built in the Badlands, basically, right? In the West United States, they're actually there, right? So it just looks absolutely fantastic. We can do that. We know Nolan's eye for the camera. He's working once again with Hoyte van Hoytema as his cinematographer, and Van Hoytema, has worked with Nolan the past few movies. Did Nope with Jordan Peele last year. He's rapidly rising up there in terms of like the active cinematographers, in terms of what you communicate on the screen. And I think what's so fun about Oppenheimer as well, which is written by Christopher Nolan as well, and as directed, is that this is like a walk and talk drama. Tons of characters walking and talking in rooms. Of course, we associate that with someone like Aaron Sorkin, someone like even like a Fincher a little bit, right? Depending on who he's working with, such as Sorkin. That is not usually what we think of when it comes to Nolan screenplays. And yet it's honestly like a perfect fit for this kind of story because it's a biopic, right? And if people know biopics as a film format, like they are not rare. We get them all the time because there are so many people in history worth making a movie about. But a lot of times the biopic format can be very staid and very static and a bit rote in terms of how it goes about its storytelling, and it doesn't really rise above kind of being a loose amalgamation of what Wikipedia could tell you about said subject, right? But Nolan, who in making Oppenheimer was adapting American Prometheus, the J. Robert Oppenheimer biography, a very long book from Kai Bird and Martin Sherwin, written in or published in 2005, which has been a bestseller for months now in the lead up to this film. Nolan, I think, really stands out in terms of making a biopic because he is able to present visually in ways that most filmmakers have no dream of ever achieving, right? So I think what's so cool about this movie, and really a great way of communicating the point of view the movie has on its singular subject, is when things come up, we are presented with Oppenheimer's thoughts on what's going on, or his thoughts about the future, his feelings about what's going on. And we see that as like a physical manifestation on the screen, on the film. And, sometimes when, like in the very beginning, when Oppenheimer's kind of processing various physics theory and whatnot and trying to just put things together in his own mind as the genius man that he was, you literally are interspersed as the viewer. We're seeing like atoms colliding. We're seeing like space time and stuff, and it's like a really effective way at communicating Oppenheimer's thoughts and feelings on things. Later in the film, and of course spoilers for the film, it's based on history, but spoilers for the film, like later when Oppenheimer's thinking about the irreparable tragedy that befalls the actual use of a nuclear weapon, you see Oppenheimer thinking about the tarred ashes of Japanese bodies, right? And he's like seeing that in his mind, but it's presented to us in scene, in picture, with Oppenheimer when he's reflecting back on an affair he had, cheating on his wife. We actually see that affair uh, in actual picture, with like on top of the chair in the room that Oppenheimer and his wife are actually in the moment. Like the way it processes memory and feeling and thought like that, I thought was like really brilliant. And also because the movie is so expertly edited, it's the cutting is so quick, so precise that it's able to show you Oppenheimer, show you these manifestations of his feelings and his emotions, and then cut back to reality again. It's, I think, a really riveting way to communicate emotion and communicate complicated emotion too. I think that's what's really great about Oppenheimer as well, is that Oppenheimer's feelings and thoughts about what he's doing, what he's achieving, his leadership in terms of this group of brilliant men and women and where they're going. That is dense, and it is hard to parse, and Oppenheimer is hard to read. I think the movie does a great job at that. This is a Christopher Nolan movie, so obviously the timeline is not strictly linear, but I think it is really great to follow and is kind of structured very well. There's really just a few different distinctions. It's really like the lead up of Oppenheimer, pre-Manhattan Project. He's in Europe, gets basically hired by Matt Damon's character, General Leslie Groves, or it may not be general yet, but in the army, Leslie Groves, played by Matt Damon, brought in to lead the Manhattan Project. The lead up to that is contrasted with this black and white timeline featuring Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Lewis Strauss, a government figure, and he's talking with one of his aides in Congress, played by Alden Ehrenreich, and the way those timelines kind of mesh, it's, I think, very propulsive, very riveting in the beginning, and then by Act 3, a lot of the core timeline in terms of the lead up of the Manhattan Project, leading up to the Trinity test, the first test of a nuclear weapon, or atomic weapon in a test environment, proving that everything they had worked to for years, billions of dollars, proving that it all worked. That first two acts leading to that Trinity test point is some of the most propulsive and riveting and thrilling stuff I've ever seen, despite the fact that we all know that the test will work. We know what happens. And I think it really speaks to the strength of that editing, the strength of that direction, of course, the strength of the acting, that you're just on the edge of your seat, and it's like a true, genuine thriller within a more traditional biopic mold. And once we get post-Trinity test, we really dive in with Act 3 into the black and white, present day scenes, which is based around the Alden Ehrenreich, Robert Downey Jr. stuff going on in Congress, as well as the 1954 security clearance hearings that Oppenheimer goes through post World War II, post all the immense success. We're kind of in this boardroom where Oppenheimer's getting basically railroaded and embarrassed in this private hearing with the already decided goal of revoking his security clearance in a type of kangaroo court type situation. And I think the movie still really grabs you in that third act, and it really concludes with an immense ending. And this ending is actually a continuation of the first piece of a scene you see in the very beginning of the movie, which is when Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Lewis Strauss, at Princeton, kind of offers Oppenheimer this post and is trying to basically bring Oppenheimer into the U.S. government's fold in terms of running, like, how they think about atomic energy and stuff. Again, a lot of history to parse, but at that time, Oppenheimer walks down to speak to none other than Albert Einstein. I think it's really cool to see Albert Einstein in a movie like this, just because that's just one of the legendary people in the history of humanity, and to see him manifested on screen, to me, it's kind of chilling. I thought it was really cool. I forget who plays him. Tom Conti plays him. Thought he did a really good job. And they have a brief moment. We don't know what Oppenheimer and Einstein say to each other. we link back in with Oppenheimer and Strauss. Oppenheimer says he'll think about it, and that's it. Very end of the movie, we go back to that scene. We find out Oppenheimer and Einstein said to each other, and I thought it was just a really haunting, bone-chilling type monologue about how what happened to Einstein in the scientific community. Einstein's telling Oppenheimer it's going to happen to you right about now. It basically predicts what happens to Oppenheimer in terms of you will be cast out and left behind. And then once you get old, they'll bring you around, hand you some awards, pat you on the back, tell you did a good job when you're old and not relevant. And just remember, they're not doing that for you, they're doing that for themselves. And you actually you hear those Einstein comments over a future scene where Oppenheimer gets an award from, I believe, the Lyndon Johnson administration. I believe it was given out by Kennedy, but Kennedy was killed before the award happened. And we see other people that we knew from the movie and from the Manhattan Project there. And I think it's a really effective ending. And then from there, it just seems to kind of really get into like Oppenheimer being consumed by this guilt over what he had done in terms of allowing humanity the ability to annihilate itself, becoming the merchant of death, the destroyer of worlds, whatever the quote was. And, we see these flashes to modern day nuclear warheads and stuff. And I think it really makes you think. And, I think the Oppenheimer character is so fascinating and so rich for a movie like this is because he was not someone who ever publicly expressed that complete remorse for what he had done, even if in terms of his public or his professional life post-war, in terms of coming out in opposition to the H-bomb program, the advancement of atomic bombs post-World War II to the bomb, the more modern bombs we have now. That was like the extent of it. And like, he's a really complicated figure. And that ending definitely leaves you sitting with a lot of, guilt and bad feeling. But it's completely earned, completely justified in the movie. I just think the way they have Einstein being the one to kind of grab that and bring it all home for the viewer and putting you in that headspace for Oppenheimer, like, I think it's just really moving, So I liked, as I said, I liked Act 3, where it kind of goes post World War II. But those first two acts, when we're in the lead up to World War II is kicking, and leading up to the Trinity test and the dropping of the bombs, that is just propulsive and riveting and edge of your seat stuff. And I think a big part of this movie, a really fun part of this movie, is just how many like big name actors are in it, playing countless famous and significant people in history from this time. So obviously people know Cillian Murphy as J. Robert Oppenheimer. Cillian Murphy been in many Nolan movies before, but he's never been the star of a Nolan movie till now. And obviously most famous for Peaky Blinders, the lead role there. This is kind of the big star turn for Murphy on the big screen. And he completely crushes it. We think of Cillian Murphy, very distinct face, those big blue eyes. What he communicates with his face, he's able to really embody the enigma of J. Robert Oppenheimer in an amazing way. And he carries the film. He's really great. I think the Oscar nomination is a lock at this point. From there, we have Matt Damon as Leslie Groves. Matt Damon, kind of perfect as this kind of leader soldier character. Matt Damon's always good. Robert Downey Jr. as Lewis Strauss really stands out. Robert Downey Jr., he basically took some time away post Avengers Endgame, post cashing that $50 million check for Marvel. He was chilling, and he come back, I think, in a big role. Best supporting actor nom, I think, is in the mix here for Downey. I really like the multitudes to Lewis Strauss, the almost two-faced nature we learn about towards the end of the movie. I think it's a really great piece of casting, really great performance from Downey. Two key female characters in the movie that I cannot overlook. Emily Blunt plays Kitty Oppenheimer, Robert Oppenheimer's wife. Florence Pugh plays Jean Tatlock, this acquaintance, friend of Oppie that he had an affair with, a complicated relationship with. And This unfortunately presents a common trope with Nolan movies in the sense that he is not good at handling female characters. Often, female characters in his movies do not have a lot to do, are not very well fleshed out. I would say Emily Blunt, as his wife, has very little to do to the very end when, thankfully, Emily Blunt, great actor, movie star actor, she finally is given something to do at the very end where she actually gives testimony in the kangaroo court hearings and kind of goes head to head with Jason Clarke's like prosecutor type character in that scene, and Blunt really kills it there. That's like her only like real big moment. Otherwise she's just kind of the wife to the complicated womanizing man, and it's a bit beneath someone like Emily Blunt. I think that's obvious. Florence Pugh as Jean Tatlock, this is also a character that I think is just not given quite enough time for the movie, despite it clearly is a significant character in the history. Both Tatlock was a source of infidelity from Oppenheimer, but also a key source of a lot of suspicion around Oppenheimer because Tatlock was a active member of the Communist Party in the United States. And obviously at this time, the Second Red Scare is already in full swing when the lead up to McCarthyism, and the way communism is portrayed in a fearful and, very anti-right-wing tone with government at this time, I think is also a key part of the tension, of course, coming from real history, but key part of the tension in this movie. And Jean, though, she's portrayed as someone who maybe has some mental health issues, a bit unstable in some way, but there's just not enough time. Like they meet, they're together. Apparently, they have this very complicated connection, and then she either kills herself / gets killed. We don't really know. It's portrayed ambiguously by design. I just don't think there was quite enough there that when Oppenheimer expresses some real grief over finding out that she died and having Kitty embrace him, like it's just not. It needed more time, and for a 3-hour movie, you probably could have found that time. So unfortunately, Nolan's still kind of doing what he does with having weak female characters. Pugh and Blunt are great, but they're only given so much to do. Josh Hartnett, obviously he's kind of been on the comeback as a character after the last few years. Great performance in Black Mirror earlier this year. He's really integral as Ernest Lawrence, who, is someone who made one of like the first particle accelerators. Key part of the story, especially at the beginning. Thought Hartnett was great. Casey Affleck shows up pretty late in the movie as Boris Patch, this government military figure who is kind of investigating and suspicious of Oppenheimer. You have Kenneth Branagh as Niels Bohr, this Danish physicist who was a bit of an early mentor to Oppenheimer in terms of academic theorizing and whatnot. Small role for him, but he's good. Rami Malek shows up later doing the neurotic Rami Malek stuff, but he has one big moment at the end. Clark as the prosecutor, Roger Robb. Jason Clarke is perfect for this kind of role. This bombastic, gregarious, aggressive type character does a great job. I mentioned Tom Conti as Einstein. Benny Safdie as Edward Teller, the Hungarian American physicist who is integral to the Manhattan Project, and then later becomes integral in the development of the H-bomb program post-war. The war. Really great character, especially because Teller is like the one person in the scientific community who basically stabs Oppenheimer in the back during those hearings. The one who doesn't completely endorse and stand behind Oppenheimer's judgment and loyalty to the U.S. and whatnot. Safdie, who obviously we know as one half of the Safdie brothers, but has been acting a lot the past 5 years, putting on an accent for this movie. I think he bulked up a little bit to fill out for the role. I thought he did a really good job. I think this is a key part, one of the key supporting characters, and he did a really nice job. Dylan Arnold as Oppenheimer's brother. David Dastmalchian as Borden, someone who is used by Strauss to ruin Oppenheimer's reputation. Dane DeHaan as this lackey of Strauss. Alden Ehrenreich, as I said, as an aide to Strauss. All small roles, but they're all nice. You have Matthew Modine in a small role. Josh Peck in a blink and you miss a type role. I think he has one line. Jack Quaid, another small role. Alex Wolff, small role. David Krumholtz as Isidore Isaac Rabi, who was an American physicist, Nobel Prize winner. He has I think 2 or 3 key scenes, but man, Krumholtz, he's one of those actors that just gets completely lost in whatever role he's playing. Loved him in this. Thought he was really great. You get Matthias Schweighöfer as Werner Heisenberg, the German physicist who ends up leading the Nazis' efforts during the war to develop a bomb. Brief scene, but I really liked him in it. Yeah, loaded scene. Loaded cast. And then I didn't even know he was in the movie, but Gary Oldman shows up as Truman at the end for like one real scene. And we know Oldman can get lost in a historical figure, of course. Now he's played both Truman and Churchill. Pretty funny. But I thought the cast, top to bottom, was great. And it's just fun watching first time, waiting for like you see, oh wow, we're like 2 hours into the movie and we just got Casey Affleck showing up. Like it's just kind of a big flex, and it shows you like people are willing to work with someone like a Nolan, a filmmaker who's so famous they'll take any role he offers. Really cool. Yeah, I mean, I should note the Ludwig Göransson's score. Man, I mean, the score combined with the fast editing, the portrayal of emotion on screen, all of that really sings. Man, we know Göransson's been crushing the music game with movies lately. I think he did an amazing job with this. I saw the movie in 70 millimeter. I didn't see IMAX 70 millimeter. There's only like 30 of those screens in the country. I saw one of the 150 or so 70 millimeter showings. And obviously it's really cool to see something on film, like seeing like really on film, just because it's pretty uncommon. That was a fun experience. As I said, I'll be getting to the Barbenheimer stuff in a separate segment. Check the link below. But yeah, man, I just got really grabbed by the complication of Oppenheimer as a character, the presentation of the vast moral quandary and ethical minefield that was everything going on at this time. It's just such a significant aspect of American history, of world history, and just kind of being like in the moment, in the time, as we're in the midst of the Manhattan Project for the years it's going on, having everything going on with the fear of communism, the fear of Soviet spies amidst the project, and then of course all the political intrigue that you get at the end with Oppenheimer being railroaded and Strauss being exposed for what he had done. I mean, I just found all that so moving, and I mean, I think it's one of the most successfully emotional Nolan films. Again, that's something that's not often cited as a strength of Christopher Nolan, but I mean, I thought it was just really special. And obviously, if you're a fan of history, you'll love to just see it portrayed. But I think it really kind of rises well above any kind of historical film or biopic film, because it has that visual excellence that we expect from Nolan and his crew in terms of editing and camera and using aspect ratios and changing color. And then the script is one of, I think, the most impressive Nolan scripts. Again, we don't think of him as a writer first, but this is one of the best jobs he's ever done. And yeah, I'd have this as my best movie of the year. Right now, it's this and Past Lives. Right now, we'll see what happens, see how I feel at the end of the year. But yeah, I think this is one of the best movies Nolan's ever made. And obviously that says a lot. He's a filmmaker with a lot of fans, also a lot of detractors, just because there's a polarizing aspect to some of the things that have been common in his films, particularly the portrayal of women, portrayal of timelines, and valuing visual over story coherence, depending on the film. I don't believe all those things. Those are just common thoughts people have. But this, I mean, I think this is a movie that answers a lot of the detractors' thoughts in terms of what it does well. And it's just so amazing, again, that a movie like this, a 3-hour historical drama, rated R, this is a movie that grossed $80 million at the domestic box office. That's amazing. So let me know, how did you feel about Oppenheimer? How would you compare it to other Nolan movies? What was your favorite thing about it? Who was your favorite actor in it? There's certainly so many to pick from. And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. All right, that's going to do it for the pod this week. Next week, obviously tough to follow up Barbenheimer, but we may be getting the first Travis Scott album in 5 years, Utopia. I'm not positive that's going to happen, but exciting if it does. It sounds like it's close. Also, Marvel's Secret Invasion is wrapping up. Righteous Gemstones from HBO wrapping up. Post Malone new album. Some other music, some other stuff. We're keeping it going through the summer. Make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/nostalgiapod. Hit the link below. Linktree.com/nostalgiapod. Get the pod. Just make sure you get it. Do it somehow, please. And also see the link below for the best of 2023 Spotify playlist for my favorite songs of the week. And I'll see you next time.